If you see these potatoes in your house, they are perfect. Do not throw them out. As you can see behind me, we have our potato mounds ready for planting right now here in Zone 8B. And this is the perfect seed potato to plant. This is one of ours from last year. I'm going to tell you exactly how we did this. So this is the perfect size potato that you want to save from your harvest the previous year. Well, it used to be. You can see that it has shrunk up and shriveled quite a bit. That is because the energy is going into the sprouts themselves. This potato started off at about a very extra large egg size, and that is the perfect size to have great big potatoes grow in your garden the next year. Now, as we talk about sprouting or chitting potatoes, I'm going to talk about the terminology itself. Sprouting and chitting usually mean the same thing. However, there are certain regions which use the word chit differently. And one of those regions is here in the southern United States. So let me explain. I said that this was the perfect size to get a nice large potato harvest out of this future plant. So if you start with a larger seed potato, you're going to need to cut it up into several pieces. And a lot of people in the southern US call that process of cutting up a larger seed potato chitting. And then the sprouting comes from the eyes on each chitted piece after that. But in other areas, they don't use chitting and sprouting in that way. They use them interchangeably. Really, it's all the same process. Now, there's several ways to sprout potatoes, and that could depend on what climate you live in. So, for us down here in the humid South, the things that I'm going to show you work the best for us. Now, I used to live in Michigan, and I know there's a better process to sprout potatoes up there, and M.I. Gardner does it. So what he does is packs his potatoes in wet sand. You can go watch his videos on that, and that helps retain some of the moisture. You can see these are shriveled up, but these are perfect. It still has enough energy in it to take it to the time when I need to plant it and to give me perfect little sprouts. Now let's talk about those sprouts themselves. You can see this potato here has essentially one, but it's kind of in three parts here. You could call that three. You don't want any more than three on a potato, at least this size. So if you've got more coming out, you want to break those off. That is going to give this potato the perfect ratio of energy it has in that old potato to the sprouts. And it's going to give you a very healthy plant, which will produce large potatoes. Now, if you don't want to break all those off, you can leave it and plant it with this whole thing looking like a porcupine. But keep in mind, you will get more potatoes, but they are going to be very small. So if that's your goal, you can do that. Now, here's a really neat thing. This potato is from last year. It is currently early March in Zone 8B, and I dug these up in, I believe, June of this past year. Now I have three spots where I've kept these seed potatoes from last year, two in my house and one in the barn. Let's talk about each one of those because each one is different and each one has given me a little bit different potato. So later on in the video, after we talk about the sprouting process, I'm going to show you how we plant these in our garden. Many of you have seen the video before where we showed you how to build a makeshift root cellar out of a 35-gallon galvanized trash can. If you're interested in that video, click at the top of the screen. Now let's look to see what we have inside of here in terms of our potatoes. Now, as you can see here, I have a completely different animal. It started to grow small potatoes on it already, and you can see this long white shoot. Let's talk about that. This long white shoot means it was looking for light when it was time to start sprouting. Unlike this one, which was in the house and did have some light which got to it. This type of sprout is not great. So what we can do is actually pinch this off. That is not going to hurt our seed potato. Once I take that off, I still have energy left in the potato. Now you can plant it like this and hope you get some extra potatoes from these, but for us, we're gonna take these off because they are just going to rob energy from these sprouts to come up out of the ground. And to have a healthy plant that sprouts and grows the tops of the potato plant, you don't want any of that energy to be wasted doing that. So remember that rule of 3 too. You can see how many sprouts are on this one. And it could be 1, but I'm gonna break off some of this to give this original seed potato the best chance to provide the energy for those few sprouts to grow a healthy plant. So obviously we're inside the house now. Let me show you how we keep and store our potatoes for the year. You'll have to excuse the noise. I'm right next to our solar inverters. This is it. This is just a wooden crate, and I have a ripped up Territorial Seed Company catalog in here. And what I've done with this ripped up catalog, these little pieces of newspaper, is make layers of potatoes. So layers of potatoes and layers of newspaper. So what that allows us to do is keep all of these potatoes in our house. You can see I've got all different sizes here, and that's because we eat out of these containers as well. We grab the ones we want to eat, and you can see here this one is just starting to sprout, but we have got a lot of great little sprouts in here. Now, these actually are starting to search for light a little bit. When they start to do that, you want to take them out of the newspaper and set them aside in some sort of container. But make sure that container has adequate light, or it's going to start sending off those white shoots like this. You can see this one is good, but this one over here is not, because it's searching for light. So we are going to pinch that one off, but you can tell others in here are just perfect. Now the reason these are all different sizes is because we ate out of this as well. So I did have all different sizes. When I chose to eat out of here, I chose to eat the ones that were really big and really small, leaving those with that perfect size like this one alone. Now these have been in here since harvest last June, so essentially 8 months. About 4 months ago, I took some of these out when they just first started to sprout, and I'll show you where I put those. And that is right here on our storage shelves for all of our canned food. If you haven't seen this video on how I built this, click at the top of the screen. So on the shelf, I've got these little baskets, a whole collection of different ones, and I just took these out of that newspaper and set them out there, and you can see the difference. So there's a little bit of a difference between the ones that continue to stay wrapped in the newspaper in a semi-dark environment to the ones that came out here. These sprouts are better. And like I said, these have been out here for several months. So when you first start to see that sprouting happen on the potatoes that are the size that you want to use for your garden, get them out into a semi-well lit area. Normal house light levels is just fine. Okay, now that I've talked about our methods for sprouting our potatoes and the best types of potatoes to plant, let's go outside and start planting. So we're out here in the garden, and I had previously already hilled up 3 hills for our potatoes. This is enough for our family. You can see we've got seed potatoes left over, and we ate from our potato storage for most of the year. So what I've done in our hill is just dug a trench in the center of it, and then I am going to fertilize it with Sustain, which is, I use this on everything, and it is a great organic fertilizer that's an all-around. It's 464. It works awesome. We're just going to go through and dress our trench. Now this area had already been previously amended with compost. So I am always building my soil, always adding to it. You always have to feed your soil because whatever you grow in it is taking away, so you need to put back. And this area had a lot of clay in it. As you can see down at the other end, it still is kind of a reddish color. And that is because we're still in the process of amending it after a few years and getting that clay, some more organic matter into it. So we are just going to drop these in our trench. Now, I found that it doesn't matter if the eyes are up, eyes sideways, eyes down, they grow pretty much all the same. Additionally, I've started to put them closer together over the years. Usually, in the past, I kept them 2 feet apart, then I moved them to 18 inches. Now I am at about 12 inches, and I haven't seen that much in difference of yield. Thanks for joining us today to learn how to sprout potatoes in our area. Now go click on this playlist right here, which is all of our gardening videos for Zone 8B. Have a beautiful, blessed day, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.